Hey everybody. So on social media the other day, I threw out this idea of me doing these short videos where I talk about books I'm reading or comics I'm reading or games or collectibles I get in the mail. Uh, some new stuff, some old stuff, a lot of waxing nostalgic, so to speak, about some of the things I'm into and things that have influenced me. So I'm going to give it a try, see if people like it, and if so, I'll do more of them. I thought today I would start. You might expect me to start with a comic, but I think today I'm going to start with this great position my camera. This great Goodman Games original adventures reincarnated edition of Castle Amber. So this is a 5th edition conversion uh, of the classic Castle Amber module, which may be my favorite Dungeons and Dragons module of all time. I It was definitely the first D&D module that I participated in, that I played the game. I had played other sort of pseudo role playing games like the Wizard's Bane and things like that came with miniatures and a small adventure and some dice you'd roll. And I had seen Dungeons and Dragons adventures because my good friend Vardell, when I was in second grade, his older brothers were really into Dungeons and Dragons, and he one day he brought a copy of the Tomb of Horrors module to school, and we went through it at lunch because it had this picture book in it, and we just poured over the pictures in that. But Castle Amber was the first adventure I ever played, and I played that with my friend Bardell, just me and him. We folded up had a card table we set up, and he set up his brother's DM screen, and he ran the Castle Amber module, and I was hooked. I loved it. So these Goodman Games editions are really cool. They've done a few of them now. I'm not sure when these came out. Not, I mean, within the last couple of years. But if you look at this, if you remember what a D&D module is, it was 30 pages or so and a little cardstock cover. These are really thick hardcover editions. They have a nice ribbon so you can keep track of what pages you're on, and it's sort of a retrospective of the adventure. It has some great interior artwork in it, and it has a retrospective because they do like introductions, and they show this is a great picture of some kids playing Star Frontiers, and they have a number of essays on the module and on role playing games in general. This one has a little essay on Clark Ashton Smith, who was the inspiration for this module. But then it also has, what's really cool is it has a reprint of the original module in it. So this is the original module just as it appeared in print. So a little bit of extra artwork, I think. But the maps are there. It has this, this is a gatefold cover that has some of the original artwork in it. And it's everything from the original base, or expert set, whatever it was for Dungeons and Dragons. And then they go into a 5th edition conversion. So then it has basically it goes through the module again for players of 5th edition. It tells you how to run the adventure. In 5th edition, has all the stats, everything you could want if you were going to run that game. And then it also has, and this is, I know how gamers are. You like to just pull bits and pieces out for your own campaigns. It has all the stats for all the monsters that are in the module. So it's got a mini monster manual in the back, and there are pages and pages of new monsters in here, all illustrated. NPCs, all illustrated. Most of the new stuff's in black and white, if not all of it. And it has all the handouts again, and they even go so far as to make some corrections to the module if there were some issues where something didn't mesh with the maps. I think they go about correcting that in the new editions. But if you're unfamiliar with Castle Amber, it's a weird fantasy adventure. Your characters are driven by this supernatural fog into this mysterious old castle, and you meet a host of strange and unusual NPCs, all of a magical nature, and you end up going through an indoor forest, and then you transport through time to another land, the land of Avarion, and and like I said earlier, it was all inspired by Clark Ashton Smith. Now, I didn't necessarily realize that when I was a kid playing it, but this was my first exposure to the stories of Clark Ashton Smith, and he was considered part of the Lovecraft circle. And so really, it was my first exposure to that kind of weird tales, weird fantasy. Um, and it probably set up a lot of a lot of the things I was interested in going forward because of that. I mean, I would look at this, the original module stuff, and look at these great drawings of creatures like the Brain Eater, which is a little blurry there, but how can you look at the Brain Eater and not love that as a weird kid, right? And then years later, I would realize these stories were the base. The module were based on stories by Clark Ashton Smith, and this is a Rendezvous in Avarion, which is my favorite. Has long been my favorite Arkham House edition that I have. Just amazing stories. I love the world. It's inspired me in so many ways. This world of connected short stories and this all strange. It's a fantasy setting, but a little bit nightmarish, a little bit creepy. If you haven't read Clark Ashton Smith's short stories, you absolutely should. If you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, this is, from a historical perspective, this is a cool artifact edition. But if you play 5th edition now, you can absolutely still play it. It's a lot of information, a lot of good stuff. This is a book that I consider full of inspirational material. So I'm going to be talking about some of these other original adventures reincarnated. I got a few of them once I saw they were doing them. So I'll probably talk about more of them and more of my history with, gaming in general. I had a friend tell me the other day that he thought I was probably much more into gaming before I was into comics. And I think it's probably, they were probably even. But I was definitely a big gamer, and definitely during the pandemic, I've gotten back into role-playing games a lot more, doing it through virtual tabletop and things like that. But anyway, so that's my first one, Castle Amber by Goodman Games. Check this out. It's really cool, whether you've seen the original adventure. If you haven't seen the original adventure, if it's your first exposure to it, it's a great way of looking at what used to come out from Dungeons and with Dungeons and Dragons, and then it's actually it's completely usable. Has lots of great, wonderful gaming content. So hopefully you guys like this video. I'll do more of them. We'll see how we do. We'll talk comics. We'll talk books. We'll talk games, and just kind of talk about the things that inspire me and interest me. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.